Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's little lesson on how to paint a white flower, we're doing a white rose here, but you can apply it to painting any white flower because I'm going to teach you how to mix whites for white flowers. So I'm using acrylic paint today, and I'm going to also kind of teach you kind of a looser technique to painting roses. So we're going to be painting this rose, and if you're a Patreon member, you'll get a downloadable file with the photo, and you'll have that reference and the full length access to the video to paint at your own leisure anytime you feel like painting along. So I hope you enjoy this lesson, and let's get into it. So to start off, I've got out my acrylic paints, and I've got them all labeled here, but I will push this up. So up here is just yellow ochre that I think the camera kind of cuts off. And I've got out my bucket of water, and I'm just going to use this one brush. It's a 3/4 inch brush, but feel free to use whatever brush you'd like to use. And the demo I did yesterday was of this red rose in acrylic, and this is acrylic paper, or it's just I don't know, it's acrylic medium paper, so you can paint oil or acrylic paint, and I get these from Michael's. It's a great thing to buy just to practice on, and this is an acrylic pad. Today I'm going to be working on same thing. I'm using a Michael's canvas pad, Artist Loft, and so you can just practice on these. So you don't have to be pressured later to feel like, oh no, I wasted a whole canvas, even though it's never a waste. Painting each canvas you paint is one more on the right path. So whatever you paint, no matter what, whether it's on canvas paper or canvas, it's all getting that mileage that you need in order to get better at painting. So don't give up. It takes hundreds of paintings before you paint stuff that you start to really like. So I've got out I'm looking at my reference when I paint, but you'll get to see it in the edited video. I usually pop it up in the video so that you can see it while I'm painting. So anyhow, I'm going to start off with a little bit of this transparent yellow oxide, and I'm using a canvas paper today, and I put out my paint. Sorry about that. I put out my paint earlier today, and then I had to go out. So I'm just gonna put out, because I'm in a bit of a rush. I didn't realize that had already kind of hardened. That's why I like using my Stay Wet palette, because it just keeps the paint from drying out quicker. So we'll see how this goes. So I'm just gonna kind of put that shape of that rose in. I really want to paint it sort of loose like this. So I'm just gonna blob that Indian yellow. I kind of like the transparent yellow oxide. You can see it's just a little more, it's like Indian yellow that's kind of, like it says, it's a little more oxidized. So it's a little bit deeper. So I want to just get some of that. And because I'm using acrylic, it dries quicker. So, I've got a little bit of water on my brush, and I don't mind that, because you'll see the way I'm going to paint this. I kind of want to teach you a method that it's really simple with oil paint, because oils don't dry. So I'm using a little Viridian and this burnt umber. And I usually use transparent brown oxide, but because it seems to be a color that no one can find, I switched to one that's a little more available, and that's this burnt umber color. So now I'm going to get a little bit of that white on my brush, and I'm going to just sort of get some white and mix it right into that paint that I've put down. So you can see how already kind of rosy it looks, and I haven't really done much, but I've just, you know, you can see I put that where the shadows were going to go. I put a little bit of that viridian and burnt umber in there, so you can see already. That's why I didn't mix too much of, when I was blobbing the white into that, I didn't mix this in because I wanted to keep this lighter like it looks in the photo. So it's hard to talk while I paint. So I'm just sort of, now I can, you know, sort of shape some of those petals in a little bit. But I wanted you to see, especially with oil paint, when you mix into that underpaint, you can have fun with sort of an instant look, you know, of a flower. So now you can go back and get some white and mix a little bit of that Indian yellow in there. And now you can start to get a little more specific with your petals. So that just gives you that sort of the undertones to the flower. Now you can sort of go in and you can start putting in some real beautiful, you know, kind of petal highlights. And as you can see, I'm just showing you because I always try to teach you that if you don't have anything dark, it's hard to paint a lighter flower. And I just, instead of telling you, I left it white so you could see just how kind of difficult it is when you're painting something really high key if you don't have something to like contrast it with in your painting. So now you've seen that. The rose doesn't really show up that much. I just want to add some color just because that's what I would normally do myself. I just wanted you to see what it looks like without any contrast. So I'm going to mix a little ultramarine blue with this burnt umber just to get a little bit of contrast going there. Look at how beautiful the edges are when you can pull in some of that paint when it pulls down like that. It's just, it really makes a pretty painterly edge like that. Just to get something in the background there. So you kind of work your way around. Add different colors in the background too. It's just, I'm not teaching really the background right now. I'm just mostly just want to keep it simple and work on a little rose. But I like to also, when I am adding in the background, especially in the early stages like this, adding a little bit of this, you know, transparent red oxide, just different colors later can really be fun when you are finishing your painting, just to have something kind of when you're working on loose paintings. And so already you can see, if you watch the painting of the red rose on the canvas paper, I'm noticing anyways that the canvas, the actual, this canvas pad, these are actual pieces of canvas. So it's not paper, but it's in the form of a pad, is a lot better than the canvas paper as far as ease of painting goes. So I'm just letting you know, the canvas pad is better than canvas paper. It just, the paint sits on top of it better, and that's a lot easier when you're painting. So now I'm going to go in, and there's a lot of shadow down in this area, and I kind of got that originally because I put some of that viridian and burnt umber in there. But I'm going to go now and I'm going to add a few different shadow colors in there. So I'll add a bit of this, some of this red oxide, and I have a little bit of that ultramarine blue and some white. Just kind of maybe add a little yellow in there so it's a little warm. Just try that out and just sort of go in and put in some of these shadows into the white there. If it's too blue, go back in with some, you can also use Viridian and some burnt umber, just to add a bit of that darker, some of those darker petals in there. And I'm kind of pulling out the shape already of the petals. I'm starting in the middle and kind of pulling the brush stroke out. Once you get a bit of that in there, I might add a little bit of that red oxide just to kind of warm it up a little. Once you get a bit of that in there, then you can start adding highlights to those petals, and they'll show up. Whereas if it's just sort of white on white, you won't. Be careful as you go up the flower. As it gets higher up, the sunlight is catching it more and it gets warmer. So make sure to rinse your brush off really good. So you've got, a clean brush again, so your colors stay nice and bright. So now I'm going to go back in with some white and a little bit of this Indian yellow, and I'm really going to pay attention to some of the real bright shapes. But again, I'm trying to keep this loose and fun. I don't want it to get like a super realism painting. I'm just looking really quickly at some of those shapes in order to get some highlights on there that I like. And then each time your brush, because this is kind of wet on wet painting, even though it's acrylic, I'm still getting some of that paint is mixing on my brush. So keep your brush clean. That's the key for getting those real bright highlights. You want to keep your brush clean. So as the petals droop down, some of the petals start to curl up here. So I'm going to show a few of those by just taking my brush and pulling it down into that area. And then there's some real nice bright highlights here. So you can add a little cad yellow light to your white and get a nice, make sure not to add a lot of cad yellow to it, just a little. It changes the white. It's just like when you're painting your house and you're picking a white color for like your house. There's all different types of white. There's warm whites and cool whites. So in this case, this cad yellow mixed to the white, it still looks white, but it's kind of more of a sunny white, versus in the shadows here, you can add a little tiny touch of blue, and that'll give your whites in the shadows more of a cool kind of hue. So here you're getting more just sort of the tips of the rose coming together. So just make a few little lines here and there. But you'll notice I'm trying to keep it real loose, so I'm using the edge of my brush just to make some of those marks. So you can add a little ultramarine blue. I put out ultramarine. You could add a little cobalt, but you can see it makes a cooler white. And for that, you could use that in more like these whites that are going to be down here in the shadows more. Then you can go back into your picture with a little bit of this transparent iron oxide red and a little bit of that Indian yellow. And if you get a little bit of, water on your brush with that mixture, you can kind of glaze in some of that real warm center that's in there. Get a little of that Indian yellow in there to give it that real kind of glow that's in the center of the rose. If you knock out too much of the white, just go back in, little dabs of the white back in there, and now you can kind of touch up your edges a little. And even go and add some real thick paint to those. I like to kind of get some real thick paint on those edges. So just have fun with it, and play around with the color, the warm whites and the cool whites. And then at the end of it all, if you want, when it's dry, you can also try glazing, and I'll do a little video on glazing once this is all dry, so you can see what I mean. And I'll post that to the channel. But don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this simple little lesson on painting a white flower, white peony, white rose, any of your favorite flowers, kind of loose and free. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and share it with a friend. And if you like this lesson, I have loads of lessons on birds, flowers, and I do all kinds of seasonal paintings, animals and landscapes and whatnot, and you can go on and watch them on Patreon. If you become a Patreon member, that really also encourages and helps me to add more videos and lessons and pays for my paint supplies. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I look forward to seeing you in the ones to come. Thank you for watching.